All right, so we're diving into something pretty interesting today, right? This Times of India article. It's about Google CEO Sundar Pichai meeting with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And I gotta say, anytime you get these tech giants and world leaders together,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. And you should be wondering, this is not, just a handshake, a photo op. This meeting tells us a lot about what Google's thinking when it comes to AI, especially
Yeah.
India's role in all of this.
Because it's not every day a company like Google looks at a country and says, hey, we see the future of AI right here.
Right.
But that seems to be what's happening here. And get this, they're already putting their money where their mouth is. This article mentions Google's already making Pixel phones in India.
Exactly. They're already invested in India as a manufacturing hub.
Right.
And Pichai keeps emphasizing Modi's Make in India initiative.
Right.
To me, that signals they're not just thinking about phones. They're thinking about India as a powerhouse for AI hardware, too.
Wow.
Think about the implications. Manufacturing, jobs, investment. This could be huge, a real shift in the global tech landscape.
Okay, so that's the big picture, right? But let's bring it down to earth a little bit. What does this mean for someone like you who's maybe just starting to learn about AI?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because Google isn't just talking about building factories. They're talking about building skills.
Yeah, and they're not being subtle about it. Right on cue, as this news drops, Google announces this whole wave of AI courses, 7 of them to be exact.
All available in India. I mean, it's like they're rolling out the red carpet,
Yes.
right? Saying, come on in, the AI water is fine.
7 courses. That's a big commitment, isn't it? We're talking introduction to generative AI, introduction to large language models, introduction to responsible AI.
Right.
They even have one called encoder-decoder architecture, which, I'll be honest,
Yeah.
that sounds a little intimidating.
It does sound a little bit like Star Trek, doesn't it?
It does.
But don't let the jargon scare you off.
Yeah.
What's important here is that Google is putting these courses out there.
Yeah.
And they're diverse, right at a time when interest in AI it's exploding, especially in India. They're trying to position themselves as, the leaders, the guides in this whole AI boom.
And think about this. India has a massive young population who are, a lot of them, are hungry for opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And you couple that with this rapidly growing tech sector, and you've got this perfect storm brewing. And Google sees that potential, and they're offering a way in. Now, the question is, will you be one of the people walking through that door?
Okay, so we've talked about all these courses, 7 of them.
7.
But let's dig into that a little bit, because I think that's really the heart of this whole thing. I mean, 7 courses might seem like a lot to get your head around.
That does.
But there's something there for everyone.
Right,
And
absolutely. And it's really smart how Google structured these courses, because they've clearly thought about different levels of learners. You've got your intro courses, like Introduction to Generative AI.
that one sounds perfect for someone who's just kind of starting out, want to dip their toes in the water, figure out the basics, like how it works, what it can do. A little taste of the AI world.
A taste, yeah, I like that, because I think a lot of people, they hear AI and they think, oh my God, it's algorithms, it's lines of code, it's this really complex stuff.
Yeah.
But generative AI, that's something people can actually rack their heads around, because it's about creating things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it imagine a program that could write a poem in Shakespearean style, or compose music like Beethoven.
Right.
That's the power of generative AI.
Now, that's what I'm talking about. That sparks the imagination, and that's just one course. Then you've got, introduction to large language models. Now, that one sounds a little more, I don't know, intense, maybe.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does, but it's really about understanding how these really powerful language models actually work. Because these are the brains behind things like chatbots, predictive text, even language translation.
Right.
So, you know what, if you've ever wondered how your phone seems to know what you're going to type before you type it,
Yeah.
this course will give you some insight into that.
Okay, so it's about understanding this technology that's already all around us,
Right.
shaping our world, whether we realize it or not. And what strikes me is these courses aren't just about becoming an AI programmer or anything.
Yeah.
It's about understanding this force, this thing that's going to impact all of us, right?
Exactly. And that's why I think a course like Introduction to Responsible AI,
Yeah.
that one is so interesting, because it really speaks to these broader societal implications
Oh, okay.
of AI.
I'm going to stop you right there because that is such a good point. This whole Google India AI thing, it's exciting.
It is.
But it does raise some big questions too, right? It's exciting, but like I was saying, this whole Google India AI thing, it does raise some big questions too, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we hear these stories about AI replacing jobs, and that's got to be on people's minds.
Oh, for sure. It's a valid concern, definitely.
Right,
I think it's more nuanced than just, robots taking over, right?
right.
What we're more likely to see is a shift in the types of jobs that are in demand. And the people who understand AI, even just a little bit, they're going to have an advantage.
So it's less about being afraid of AI and more about being ready for it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what makes these Google courses so interesting, so timely, you know? It's not just about like creating a workforce for Google.
Right,
It's about giving people the tools,
right.
right? The tools to thrive in a world where AI is everywhere.
Yeah.
Imagine imagine having the skills to not just use AI, but to shape how it's used
Wow.
in your community, in your industry.
That's a great point.
That's powerful stuff.
It's about, like you said, it's about taking that control back. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's easy to feel powerless, right? Like, we're just along for the ride when things change this fast.
Well, 100%. And that's why, I'm always banging on about this, but lifelong learning, right?
Right.
It's more important now than ever. And these Google courses, they're a perfect example. Accessible education that can actually change your life.
Mm.
It's an opportunity to not just understand AI, but to get ahead of it.
To create something new, to carve out your own space, that's a great point.
Yeah,
So we've covered a lot of ground here. It's been great.
it has.
If you had to leave our listener with just one big takeaway.
One big takeaway, pay attention to what's happening in India
Oh, okay.
with Google and AI. It's a glimpse into the future.
Yeah.
And understanding this technology, even a little, it could be huge,
Yeah.
you know? And who knows, maybe taking one of these Google AI courses is like your first step, right?
I love it. An open door, a chance to explore. Who knows what's on the other side? Thanks for joining us today.